Welcome back. I am the Body Whisperer, and I am glad you are here. Before we begin, let us settle in together. Find a comfortable position. Let your arms grow heavy, your legs, your shoulders. Take a slow breath in and let it go. One more. In and release. Good. Now, while you rest here doing nothing at all, something quiet is happening inside you. Your body is working. It always is. Every hour of every day, without ever asking for thanks. I want you to get to know it a little better, to listen to it, to feel it. Because the more you understand the quiet world beneath your skin, the more at home you feel inside your own body. So, come and meet Growth Hormone Greg, one small part of you that keeps working through the night while you sleep. This is the story of 2 hours of pituitary and growth hormone to fall asleep to. There is nothing you need to do now, nowhere to be, nothing to figure out. Just breathe. Close your eyes if you have not already, and let us begin. There is a quiet piece of work going on inside you right now, and it has been going on every night of your life. Not loud work, not urgent work. The kind of work that happens in the small hours when the building is still and the day crew has finally gone home. The kind that asks for nothing from you except this: sleep. Let your shoulders settle. Let the weight of the day go soft against whatever is holding you now. And somewhere deep inside the base of your skull, tucked beneath the brain like a small stone in a garden, something is getting ready. The pituitary gland. It is roughly the size of a pea. That small, that quietly important. It hangs from the brain by a slender stalk, and it runs a remarkable number of the body's long-range signals from that one modest address. Thyroid signals, adrenal signals, the signals that govern how water is kept or lost, how growth is paced across a lifetime. All of it coordinated from something you could balance on the tip of a finger and not know it was there. Deep inside the front half of that gland lives a population of cells with a single dedicated purpose. They are called somatotrophs, the growth hormone factories. They do not produce around the clock. They are not a river. They are more like a series of tides, releasing their cargo in pulses across the day and night, with the biggest, most reliable tide arriving right here at the edge of deep sleep. And that is where we find Greg. Growth Hormone Greg is the contractor who only works nights. He is unhurried about most things, but he is precise about his hours, and he does not negotiate them. He comes with the first long stretch of deep sleep, slow wave sleep, the kind where the brain's electrical patterns become wide and rolling, like long swells moving through calm water. Not a clock, not an alarm, just the particular quality of sleep that the brain slides into somewhere in the first hour or two after the eyes close. When that moment arrives, the somatotrophs send Greg out. A pulse, not a flood, just enough. And Greg moves through the bloodstream toward his work. What is the work exactly? Here is the thing most people never quite put together. Growth hormone is not only for children growing taller. That is one chapter of a much longer story. Through every decade of a life, Greg's nightly rounds are about something more fundamental than height. They are about repair. Through the night, Greg signals the body toward rebuilding. Tissue that wore down through the day begins to mend. Protein gets assembled back into structure. And for fuel, Greg does something elegant. He turns the body away from its sugar stores and toward its fat, encouraging stored fat to be broken down and burned so the sugar can be saved for the brain. He is not the only one doing repair work at this hour. He has colleagues, but he is the one the pituitary sends, and he is the one who sets the repair order in motion. And Greg does not work entirely alone, even in his own lane. Once he sends his signal, the liver, that tireless two-lobed organ that manages more tasks in a single night than most departments handle in a week, answers back. The liver manufactures a second messenger, a molecule called IGF-1, meaning insulin-like growth factor 1. Think of Greg as the contractor who draws up the plans, and IGF-1 as the crew that actually picks up the tools. Greg's signal, IGF-1's hands. That chain, pituitary to bloodstream to liver to IGF-1 to tissue, runs quietly and completely without your awareness. You do not feel it start. You do not feel it finish. You just wake up, and the work has been done. The muscle that ached the evening before is a little more at ease. The small repairs that accumulated during the day have been quietly seen to. This is the one true thing at the center of all of it. Deep sleep and physical repair are the same story, told from two directions at once. When scientists study why the body needs sleep, one answer keeps arriving in the data. Not the only answer, but a deep and consistent one. The body uses the stillness of sleep to do the building work it cannot do while it is busy being awake. And the key that opens that building window is not time exactly. It is not the clock saying midnight. It is the quality of the sleep itself. Specifically, those slow, rolling brainwaves of deep sleep that bring Greg in from the pituitary. Reach deep sleep, and he works. Miss it, and the window narrows. Not a catastrophe, not a cliff. Just a narrower window. Greg knows this. He has always known it. He has been arriving on this schedule since before you had words for sleep, since the first nights of a life, when growth was the urgent work and deep sleep came in long, generous stretches. The mechanism is the same now. The purpose is the same. Only the scale of the repairs has changed. The body building less, maintaining more, tending to itself the way a house tends to need less construction and more careful upkeep with each passing year. Let the breath slow. Let the body go heavy and still. The work does not need your help. It only needs the door left open. And the door is sleep. Your body has done this every single night of your life. It knows the way without being told. Let it lead. Here is something worth understanding about Greg before the night goes much further. He does not flow, he fires. Most people, if they picture a hormone moving through the body, imagine something like a slow river, a steady current, always present, just higher or lower, depending on the day. Growth hormone does not work that way. It moves in pulses, bursts. A signal goes out from the pituitary, that small sheltered gland at the base of the brain, roughly the size of a pea, and Greg is released in a wave. Then, later, another wave. This is not a flaw in the system. It is the system. The cells that make Greg are called somatotrophs, and they live in the front section of the pituitary. They do not release their cargo on a slow drip. They hold, and then they let go all at once, a pulse. And the body, downstream, feels it. Tissues perk up. The liver takes note. Signals begin to move. Then the pulse is over. The somatotrophs rest. They wait for their next instruction. What gives the instruction? Two signals, coming from the brain, working in opposition, the way a thermostat and a furnace switch work together. One signal, a releasing signal, called growth hormone releasing hormone, tells the somatotrophs to fire. The other, a quieting signal, called somatostatin, tells them to hold. The pulse happens when the releasing signal wins out over the quieting one, and then somatostatin reasserts itself. Quiet again. What nobody tells you is that this tug of war is happening all day and all night. Small pulses come and go at irregular intervals. Most of them are modest. The body does its background work. But the largest pulse, the one that matters most for repair, is tied to something specific. Not a time on the clock, not a hormone level in the blood. It is tied to a depth of sleep, deep sleep, slow wave sleep. The kind where the brain shifts into long rolling electrical waves. Waves measured in the low end of the frequency range called delta waves, and the whole system quiets down in a way that nothing else quite matches. When the brain settles into that depth, something changes in the balance of signals. The quieting signal, somatostatin, eases back. The releasing signal gets the floor. And the somatotrophs, which have been holding their cargo through the lighter stages of sleep, finally let go. Greg's main pulse arrives, not a trickle, a genuine surge. The largest, most reliable release of the night, the one the body seems to have been saving for. And then the work begins. Now, here is where it gets interesting, because the pulse itself lasts only a short while. Greg moves through the bloodstream, reaches his target tissues, delivers his signal, and then the pulse fades. The blood levels of growth hormone drop back down. A few hours later, there may be smaller pulses, but the first one, the deep sleep one, is the one the body leans on most. This is why missing deep sleep is not simply a matter of feeling tired the next day. The pulse that arrives in deep sleep is not interchangeable with pulses that might come later. Later pulses are smaller. The window that opens with the first stretch of deep sleep is a particular window, wide and reliably timed, and tied to that specific depth of rest. Greg knows this. He does not try to do his largest shifts work in the shallows. He has been doing this long enough to know that light sleep does not open the same door. He waits. He waits through the lighter stages, through the drowsy early minutes, through the first shallow cycles, and when the brain finally descends, when the delta waves begin to roll, when the whole system eases down into true quiet, that is when the signal comes. Hold, and then release. There is something almost architectural about it. The pulse is not random, it is coordinated. The brain shifts its rhythm. The pituitary reads that shift. The somatotrophs respond. The liver receives the signal and begins its answer. And that answer, the production of a second messenger called IGF-1, will carry Greg's repair instructions to tissues all over the body. But that is the next step in the chain. For now, just the pulse itself. Just the moment when the quieting signal steps back and the releasing signal says now, and the small gland at the base of the brain opens its hand. Let the shoulders rest a little heavier into the mattress. The breath, slow and even. The body is already beginning its descent through the lighter stages. The delta waves are not far off. Not something to reach for, just something that will arrive, the way the tide arrives, without being called. The somatotrophs are patient. They have been doing this every single night of a human life. They know the rhythm. They know the depth of sleep that opens the door, and they know how to wait for it. A pulse is not a flood. It does not need to be. A precise release, timed to the right depth, delivered to a body that has gone quiet, that is enough. It has always been enough. The system did not evolve to be impressive. It evolved to be reliable. You are held here, resting and warm and safe. That is the whole of it. There is no other part you have missed. Reliable is a quiet word. It does not ask to be noticed. And that is exactly right for what happens next. Because the next part of Greg's story is not about what he does. It is about when he is allowed to begin. Consider the hours just before sleep. The body has been doing other work. A meal came in, maybe a late one. Glucose moved through the bloodstream, and a character showed up to manage the whole delivery operation. Insulin Ivan. Ivan is compact, hexagonal, efficient. He is a door-to-door delivery driver who knocks on every cell in the body, dropping off glucose. Healthy cells open immediately. He hands over the package and moves on. The rules are simple. That is the only way Ivan knows how to operate. And while Ivan is working, Greg waits outside. This is not a conflict. It is just scheduling. Insulin, when it is circulating at higher levels, holds growth hormone back. The mechanism is not fully mapped at every step, but the shape of it is clear. Insulin's presence suppresses the signal that would otherwise let Greg's pulse fire. The body is doing one job. It will do the other job when that one is finished. Think of it as a single-lane road. Ivan's truck is on it. Greg's truck is idling at the junction. Headlights on, engine running. No urgency, no frustration, just the ordinary patience of a system that has always worked this way. When the meal was eaten close to the start of sleep, Ivan's work runs longer into the night. Insulin stays elevated, and Greg's window, that first, largest, most dependable pulse, gets pushed back or narrowed or both. Not canceled, just deferred. The body will still do the repair work. But the timing shifts. Greg knows this. He has been doing this long enough to know that the kitchen schedule and the sleep schedule are the same schedule. A body that finishes eating hours before sleep is a body where Ivan has already clocked out. The glucose has been tucked away and the insulin level has drifted back down to something quiet. The lane is clear. Greg moves. There is something almost mechanical about the elegance of it. The body cannot repair and store at the same time, not efficiently. Storage is insulin's domain. Repair is Greg's. They do not overlap well, so the body sequences them, the way a careful kitchen sequences courses. One thing cleared away before the next is laid out. And here is where Liver Lisa enters the picture for a moment. Lisa is large, smooth, warm brown, the overworked night manager of the body's most demanding department. She handles more tasks simultaneously than any other organ. Glucose regulation, filtration, processing, storage. She has, by any reasonable count, somewhere around 500 distinct documented functions, and she performs most of them without comment. We have order here. That is Lisa's working principle, and she lives by it. Lisa's connection to this part of the story is simpler than it might seem. When insulin levels are high, Lisa is busy with glucose management, receiving it, storing it as glycogen, running the carbohydrate accounting. When insulin eases back, a different set of instructions becomes available to her. Greg's signal, when it arrives, finds Lisa in a different mode, quiet, receptive, ready for the repair work. IGF-1, a molecule the liver makes in response to Greg's signal, acting as a kind of second messenger that carries repair instructions throughout the body, gets made more cleanly in that quieter metabolic state. The same signal, sent into a body where insulin is still high, meets a different environment. Lisa is still doing glucose work. The repair chemistry has to wait its turn at her desk. This is why the timing matters. Not as a warning, not as something to worry about in the dark, just as a fact about how the body sequences its shifts. The overnight fast, the simple hours between the last meal and the morning, is not an accident of culture. It is the gap that lets one crew finish before the next crew starts. Let the arms settle heavier now. The legs are still. There is a long tradition of humans eating late, sleeping immediately, and sleeping fine. It is resilient and patient and not easily thrown. But there is also a version of the night where the lane is already clear when sleep begins, where Ivan finished his route hours ago, where insulin has been quiet for a while, where Greg does not have to wait at the junction at all. In that version, the first stretch of deep, slow-wave sleep arrives on its own schedule, and Greg's pulse fires into a clean environment. Lisa gets the signal early. IGF-1 begins its slow work. The repair orders go out while the night is still long. That version asks for nothing dramatic, no effort, just time between the table and the pillow. Greg knows this hour, the hour when the metabolic handoff happens cleanly, when one worker steps back and the other steps forward, when the body moves from the business of storing to the business of building. He has been arriving at this juncture night after night. For as long as the body has been sleeping, it did not make the night complicated. It made it orderly. Your hands are open and resting. Your feet are warm. The whole body is settling, one small piece at a time. It did not make the night complicated. It made it orderly. And now, with the table cleared and the last delivery driver clocked out, Greg steps inside. Here is what nobody tells you about Growth Hormone Greg. Most people, when they hear the words growth hormone, picture height. A child stretching taller over a summer. Pants that no longer reach the ankle by September. And yes, that is part of the story early in life. But Greg's work does not stop when the growing stops. What was once about building upward becomes about building inward, maintaining the architecture that already exists, repairing what the day has worn down, and keeping the whole structure sound. The body never stops needing a contractor. It only changes the blueprints. So what does Greg actually do once the shift begins? Not the kind you eat, but the kind your cells are made of. Through the day, the body uses its own tissues constantly. Muscle fibers take small damage from ordinary movement. Cells wear at their edges. Proteins unfold and lose their shape. The damage is not dramatic. It accumulates the way dust accumulates, invisibly, steadily, and with no sense of urgency. But by the time sleep arrives, the list of repairs is long. Greg's signal tells the body to shift toward what biologists call an anabolic state, a building state, meaning the body's resources move toward construction rather than breakdown. Amino acids, the small molecular units that proteins are made from, are directed into the cells that need them. The repair work begins. Quietly, without ceremony, the way all good maintenance work gets done. The second thing is fuel. This is where the story gets interesting. Greg does not ask the body to burn sugar while it repairs. He asks it to reach for something else entirely, the fat stored in the body's own tissue. Growth hormone actively encourages the breakdown of stored fat, releasing it as fuel for the repair work that is now underway. The technical name for this is lipolysis, a word that simply means fat being broken apart for use. Greg tilts the body's fuel preference away from glucose and toward fat, so the glucose that remains available can be spared for the organs that need it most, particularly the brain. Think of it as a very sensible division of labor. The night shift runs on a different fuel source than the day shift. The day crew needed glucose, quickly available, easy to burn. The night crew draws from the reserves. The deep pantry, the slow fuel. Greg's presence is part of what makes that switch possible. And then there is the third thing, which is really the most elegant part of the whole arrangement. Greg does not do the rebuilding alone. When his pulse fires and growth hormone enters circulation, the signal travels, quickly without fanfare, to the liver. Liver Lisa, who manages the body's most complex overnight department, processes the signal and begins manufacturing a second messenger. Something that will carry Greg's instructions further, deeper, and with more precision than Greg himself can reach. That second messenger is called IGF-1, which stands for insulin-like growth factor 1, though the name is less important than what it does. IGF-1 is the translator. Greg speaks at the level of the whole body. IGF-1 carries the message to individual cells. The muscle cell here, the connective tissue fiber there, the bone surface in need of tending. It tells each cell, specifically, that repair is authorized, that the building state is on, that the materials are available and the window is open. Liver Lisa noted once that this was her 501st documented responsibility. She did not say it with complaint. She said it the way someone says a true thing, flatly, accurately, with no particular emotion about it. The liver processes fuel, detoxes compounds, manages blood chemistry through the night, stores vitamins for later use, and now, when Greg's signal arrives, manufactures the courier that carries his orders to every corner of the building. She does all of this at once. She has never asked for a smaller workload. She simply said, "We have order here," and she was right. The order is precise. Greg fires his pulse. Lisa receives it and answers with IGF-1. IGF-1 reaches the cells that need it. The repair begins. All of this happens while the brain is rolling through slow delta waves. The body is still, the breath is easy, and the room is dark. There is something worth sitting with in all of this. The body's most careful rebuilding work, the kind that restores what the day has worn away, happens not when you are active, not when you are eating, not when you are doing anything at all. It happens when you are lying exactly as you are lying now, still, breathing slowly, somewhere in the long, quiet descent toward deep sleep. The work requires nothing from you except the one thing you are already doing. Greg knows this. He has always built in the dark. Not because the dark is special in some abstract sense, but because the dark is when everything else has finally stepped aside. The glucose work, the insulin deliveries, the busy traffic of the waking hours, and left the floor clear for something more patient. It did not make the night remarkable. It made it necessary. Let the jaw unclench. Let the space between the eyebrows go smooth. Small places hold the day longest. Greg was not alone on this shift. That is the part most people never picture. They imagine growth hormone as a solitary worker, moving through a quiet building by himself, doing his careful rounds in the dark. And in some ways, that picture is right. His hours are specific. He does not make a lot of noise, but he has a colleague, and that colleague has been there the whole time. His name is Testosterone Tom, a stocky, warm amber figure built from 4 interlocking rings, the kind of molecular shape that looks like it was designed to bear weight. Tom works the same deep sleep window as Greg. Not before it, not after it, the same one. The two of them overlap almost perfectly in those first hours of slow wave sleep, when the brain's delta waves are rolling deep and the body has gone still. Tom's work is anabolic renovation. That is the biological word, anabolic, and it means building up as opposed to breaking down. Where the body spent the day accumulating small damage, muscle fibers stressed by use, connective tissue stretched, bone surfaces worn by ordinary load, Tom arrives in the night and authorizes the repair. He is, in the most literal sense, a construction chief. He signals muscle tissue to recover. He supports bone density. He maintains the energy architecture that lets the body show up and do work again the next day. And he needs deep sleep to do it. Almost all of the testosterone produced across an entire day, close to the whole supply, is made during sleep. And the largest share of that is tied to the deep phase. Not light sleep, not the drowsy boundary between waking and rest. The deep, slow, quiet hours that Greg also depends on. So there they are, 2 workers, 1 shift window. They are not rivals. That is worth saying plainly. There is no competition for the deep sleep window, no jostling at the door. Tom is not in Greg's way. Greg is not in Tom's. They occupy the same hours for reasons that turn out to be complementary when you look closely. Greg's signal tilts the body toward protein repair. Amino acids directed into tissue, fuel drawn from fat stores, cells primed to rebuild. Tom's signal runs alongside that work and reinforces it. Testosterone supports the same protein-building state that Greg initiates. It helps muscle tissue respond to the repair signal. It is not a duplicate instruction. It is a second voice saying the same word, which is simply build. And then something remarkable happens when you see them as a pair. The deep sleep window is not just a time inconvenience. It is the condition that makes both of their jobs possible. Greg's pulse, that large, reliable surge of growth hormone from the pituitary, is tied to the depth of slow wave sleep. Tom's production is tied to the same depth. So the same quality of rest that opens the door for Greg opens it for Tom. Neither one of them set that schedule. The brain did, in the slow architecture of its sleep cycles, and the two workers simply show up when the door is open. Greg knows this hour. He has worked it long enough to understand it not as a window he is assigned, but as the only window that fits. You cannot do this work in shallow sleep. You cannot do it in wakefulness, no matter how still the body lies. The deep phase is not a preference. It is the lock, and the biology is the T. Tom, for his part, is quietly glad someone is explaining the logistics. He has been working these hours for years, and nobody seemed to notice the scheduling. He mentioned this to Greg once, somewhere between one repair signal and the next. Greg did not find it surprising. Greg rarely finds anything surprising. He simply noted that the work had always been there, whether or not anyone was counting it. That is something worth sitting with, in the slow way that dark rooms invite. The body does not require an audience to run its night operations. Tom does not wait for acknowledgement before he begins his rounds. Greg does not pause at the pituitary door and wonder whether the repair will be appreciated. The somatotrophs fire when sleep deepens. The liver answers the signal. The construction crew takes the cleared site and begins to build. All of this happens whether or not anyone is paying attention. Whether or not the person lying in the dark has ever heard the words slow wave sleep or growth hormone or anabolic, the body knows the schedule. It has always known the schedule. The understanding is just a map drawn over territory that already existed, and the territory is this. Deep sleep is not a pause in the day. It is a different kind of work, quieter, slower, and more essential than most of what happens in the light. Greg and Tom are not exceptions to the night. They are the reason the night is structured the way it is. The breath is slow now. The weight of the limbs is real and settled. The dark is easy. 2 workers, 1 window. No negotiation necessary. It did not make the night crowded. It made it whole. Everything in the room is exactly as it needs to be. The dark is doing what dark does best. You can let it. There is an old principle in construction. Before the new frame goes up, someone has to clear the lot, pull the broken concrete, cart away the debris, level the ground. Nobody photographs that part. But skip it, and the new structure has no solid place to stand. The body knows this principle well. It has its own clearing crew. His name is autophagy Alex. The word comes from Old Greek, meaning self-eating, which sounds alarming until you understand what it actually means. Alex is the cell's internal recycling facility, the quiet custodian who collects broken proteins, worn-out components, the small structural pieces that have done their time and need to be disassembled rather than repaired. He packages them, processes them, returns the usable parts back to the cell as raw material, Nothing wasted, nothing left to clutter the site. Alex does not work all hours. He is particular about his conditions. He needs quiet. He needs a fasting state, a period when insulin is low and no new deliveries are arriving at the door. And he needs the deep, slow hours of sleep, when the cell is not busy managing the traffic of waking life. Those three conditions arriving together, that is when Alex opens his facility and begins. Which means he and Greg share something more than a time slot. Greg arrives in the deep sleep window to build, to direct amino acids into new protein, to signal repair, to authorize tissue reconstruction through IGF-1. But the cells he is signaling are not empty rooms waiting for furniture. They are lived-in spaces, accumulating the ordinary wear of a day, damaged fragments, oxidized molecules, the microscopic equivalent of last week's newspapers stacked in the hallway. Alex handles those. He moves through the cell in the same quiet hours Greg is sending his signal outward to the liver. While Greg is composing the repair order, Alex is clearing the floor where the repair will land. Not dramatically, not all at once. Piece by piece, in the unhurried way of someone who has done this every night, for as long as the body has been running. The double membrane structure Alex works with, the cellular envelope he uses to engulf and contain the debris before processing it, is called an autophagosome, meaning self-eating body. It forms around the material to be recycled, seals itself, and delivers its contents to the cell's own digestive machinery. The result is a set of reclaimed building blocks. Amino acids, fatty acids, sugars stripped back to their components and made available again. And here's the quiet elegance of the timing. The amino acids Alex reclaims from broken proteins are released back into the cell's supply, just as Greg's signal is calling for amino acids to be assembled into new structure. The clearance and the construction happen in the same window, drawing on the same pool of reclaimed material. Alex is not simply tidying. He is, in a real sense, sourcing the raw materials that Greg's rebuilding work will use. Greg knows this, not in the way that requires a meeting or a handshake. In the way that two workers on the same site know the rhythm of each other's tasks without having to discuss them. Alex clears, Greg builds. The sequence is embedded in the biology, older than any language for describing it. Insulin Ivan, meanwhile, is long quiet by this point in the night. His deliveries are finished. The last of the evening's glucose has been managed, sorted, stored. With Ivan off the floor, the conditions Alex needs are in place. Low insulin, no incoming fuel load, the cellular environment settling into something closer to a managed fast. It is not a shortage. It is a pause, and in that pause, Alex works best. Liver Lisa has noticed this arrangement, as she notices most things. She has her own recycling and detox processes running through the night, her own version of clearing and resetting. When Greg's IGF-1 signal arrives, she is already mid-shift, processing what the day left behind. She adds IGF-1 production to the list without ceremony. Her list is long. One more item changes nothing about her pace. What it changes is the cell at the far end of the signal. The cell that receives IGF-1 from Lisa is not the same cell it was at the start of the night. Alex has been through it. The debris is cleared. The broken components are already being processed. The reclaimed material is available. The cell, in the best version of this sequence, is genuinely ready for what Greg and Lisa are sending its way. That readiness is not accidental. It is the result of two systems running in the same window, for reasons that developed long before anyone named either of them. This is what the deep sleep hours actually contain. Not one process, not two. A layered operation, each part enabling the next. Each worker leaving the site in better condition for the one who follows. The clearing making space for the building. The building using what the clearing recovered. It did not make the night more complicated. The mind is allowed to wander off mid-sentence. Let it. There is nothing here you have to keep hold of. There is a shape to Greg's life across a lifetime, and it is worth holding in mind for a moment, not as something to fix, but as something to understand. A newborn sleeps in long, unbroken stretches. Slow wave sleep fills those hours generously. And during all of it, the somatotrophs, those small specialized cells in the front of the pituitary that make and release growth hormone, are firing with a kind of abundance that will never quite come back. The body is building everything from scratch. Bones are lengthening. Muscle is assembling itself out of almost nothing. The brain is wiring itself in real time. Greg, in those early years, is not a contractor finishing a few repairs after a long day. He is a general foreman on the biggest build of the body's life. That is the peak of it. Around adolescence, the pulses are large and frequent. The architecture of sleep is deep and long. The two conditions lean on each other. Deep sleep calls for growth hormone, and growth hormone in those quantities reinforces the quality of the sleep that produces it. They are, for a while, amplifying each other, and then gradually the arc bends. Somewhere through the 20s, the slow drift begins. The amount of growth hormone released across the full span of the day starts to ease downward. The deep sleep phases, which had been long and reliable through young adulthood, begin to shorten. The two things move together, not one causing the other exactly, more like two instruments in the same orchestra, both reading from the same score, both responding to the same shift in tempo. By middle age, a person typically spends less time in deep, slow-wave sleep than they did at 20. The architecture of the night is still there. The stages still cycle. The body still drops down through lighter sleep toward the slow-wave floor. But the floor does not go quite as deep. The delta waves, those long, slow brain waves that mark the deepest stage of sleep, are somewhat shorter, somewhat less frequent. And Greg's pulse, tied as it always has been to that depth, is somewhat smaller in response. This is not a malfunction. The body is not making a mistake. It is doing exactly what it has always done, matching the scale of the repair signal to the scale of the need. A 20-year-old body is still actively building. A 50-year-old body is maintaining. The renovation project has moved from a full frame-up to something quieter, tending what is already there, patching what is worn, keeping the systems that took decades to assemble in reasonable working order. The size of the signal matches the size of the task. Greg knows this. He has always known the assignment. He does not arrive at 50, expecting the frantic pace of the teenage years. He shows up. The building is quieter, and he works the hours that are given to him with the same precision he has always brought to the job. Less ground to cover. The same care per square foot. There is something almost settling about that picture, if you let yourself sit with it. The body is not declining carelessly. It is recalibrating. Growth hormone in adulthood is not the same story as growth hormone in childhood, even though it uses the same machinery, the same pituitary cells, the same liver response, the same IGF-1 pathway. The biology is identical. The scale is different. And scale is not the same as value. The overnight fast that clears insulin and lets Greg begin his shift, that still happens. Liver Lisa still answers the signal, still adds IGF-1 production to her considerable list of responsibilities. Testosterone Tom still works the slow wave window, still runs his parallel repair operation on whatever muscle has been asked to do something hard during the day. Autophagy, Alex still clears the cellular debris that accumulates over time, still breaks the old and damaged material down to its component parts, still passes those reclaimed pieces forward for the next round of building. The crew is still there. The work continues, the proportions shift, and the deep sleep window, still the thing that lets all of it happen, remains the condition all of them share. Greg's pulse is tied to it. Tom's production depends on it. Alex does not commence until the building is quiet and the last delivery driver has clocked out. Lisa waits for the signal that only the deep sleep state allows Greg to send clearly. So the same rule holds at 60 that held at 16. Get into deep sleep and the work begins. The scale of the work has changed. The rule has not. What changes with age is not the mechanism but the amplitude. The song is the same. It is played a little softer now. A person lying in a darkened room, breathing slowly, letting the weight of their limbs settle into the mattress. That person is giving the crew everything the crew needs. The body does not require anything exceptional. It requires the ordinary quiet of a night, going as nights are meant to go. Deep sleep, when it comes, opens the same window it always has. Greg steps through it. The work begins at whatever scale the night allows. It did not make the years mean less. It made them make sense. Listen to how quiet it is between the words. That quiet is doing more for you than anything being said. Here is something the body does that most people never think about. It listens. Not the way a person listens, leaning in, making eye contact, waiting for the sentence to finish. The body listens the way a thermostat does. It measures what is already in the room, and it adjusts. It is continuously checking its own output and deciding whether to make more or make less. Greg is no exception to this. When growth hormone moves out into the bloodstream after that first deep sleep pulse, the body does not simply receive it and go quiet. The liver, prompted by Greg's signal, starts producing IGF-1, the second messenger, the molecule that carries the repair authorization downstream to individual cells. And once IGF-1 is circulating, it feeds back to two places, the pituitary and the hypothalamus, the region just above it that issues the original release order. The message IGF-1 carries back is simple. Enough has arrived. Hold for now. This is a feedback loop, a biological term for a system that regulates itself by monitoring its own output. The pituitary produces growth hormone. The liver converts that signal into IGF-1. IGF-1 circles back and tells the pituitary to ease off. The level stabilizes. No overflow, no shortage, just the amount the current moment requires. There is a name for the plotting side of this loop: somatostatin, the signal mentioned earlier that sits in opposition to the release signal. When IGF-1 levels rise, somatostatin gets stronger. When IGF-1 levels are low, the release signal gains the upper hand, and Greg can fire. The two signals are always there, always measuring each other, always finding the balance point. It is less like a switch and more like a conversation. Liver Lisa, for her part, does not find this arrangement unusual. She is already running feedback loops of her own, blood glucose rising, glycogen storage responding, blood glucose settling. This is simply one more. She makes IGF-1 when Greg sends the signal. The IGF-1 reports back to headquarters. The system self-corrects. She noted it somewhere around job 230, filed it appropriately, and moved on. What makes this worth pausing on is not the machinery. The machinery is just the machinery. What is worth pausing on is the implication. The body never overshoots if it can help it. It does not release growth hormone and then hope the amount was right. It releases, monitors, adjusts, and releases again, a series of small corrections across the night rather than one large unchecked outpouring. The pulses Greg delivers are not random. They are part of a negotiation the body is having with itself, quietly, while the breath slows and the room goes still. Greg knows this hour. The hour when the feedback signal is fresh, when IGF-1 is just arriving at the hypothalamus with its first report. There is a brief, natural easing between the pulse and the correction, a small window when the message is still traveling. The body is never idle in that window. And here is the thing about the feedback loop that tends to surprise people when they first encounter it. IGF-1 does not just tell the pituitary to slow down. It also carries instruction directly to muscle cells, bone tissue, and connective tissue, the actual sites of repair. It binds to receptors on those cells, small docking points shaped exactly for it, and it tells them to take in amino acids and build, to replace what the day broke down. To add a little where the load has been heaviest, IGF-1 is not merely a brake on the pituitary. It is simultaneously a green light at every construction site Greg has authorized. The same molecule carries two messages at once. One travels upward toward the brain. One travels outward toward the tissue. Autophagy Alex, working his own quiet circuit nearby, benefits from this arrangement without particularly caring about it. The cellular debris he has been clearing has been releasing amino acids back into the available pool. IGF-1 arrives at the cell, gives the build signal, and those reclaimed materials are already waiting. Alex does not take credit for the timing. He simply notes that a clean site is easier to build on, and he leaves it at that. Tom, working the same slow-wave window from his side of the repair shift, operates inside a similar feedback arrangement. His hormonal signal also feeds back to the hypothalamus. The systems run in parallel, checking themselves, checking each other, never entirely independent of the broader conversation the night is conducting. This is what the body does when sleep is deep enough, and the room is quiet enough, and the hours are long enough. It runs an internal audit in real time. Not a single broadcast, but a continuing call and response. Signal sent, result measured, signal adjusted, result measured again. All of it happening below the level of any thought, in the same darkness where the breath has gone slow and the muscles have finally let the day go. The repair is not just happening, it is being supervised. It did not make the night simpler, it made it careful. Deeper now. Softer now. The breath keeps its own slow time, in and out, without any help from you. There is a thing about Greg that most people never consider. They think of him moving in one direction only, down from the pituitary, out into the blood, toward the tissues. Repairs begin. That is the simple version, and like most simple versions, it leaves something important out. Here is the fuller picture. Greg does not just respond to sleep. In a quiet, precise way, he helps to sustain it. Slow wave sleep, the deep delta wave kind, the kind that opens Greg's window, is not just a passive state the brain drifts into. It is actively maintained, and growth hormone, once released, reaches back toward that same architecture. Researchers have found that growth hormone appears to strengthen the depth and continuity of slow-wave sleep during the very phase it is released into. Not in a dramatic way. The way a room holds warmth after the heater has clicked off. Greg knows this dark. The mechanism is not fully mapped, and the narration should not pretend otherwise. But the broad shape of it is this. Growth hormone acts on brain tissue, not only on muscle and liver. There are receptors, small receiving structures that recognize and respond to a signal for growth hormones scattered through the brain, including in the hypothalamus, the region that governs sleep and waking. When the signal arrives there, it appears to deepen the sleep that allowed the signal to be sent in the first place. That is the part worth sitting with. The deep sleep window opens Greg's pulse. Greg's pulse, in turn, helps keep the window open. It is not a loop that runs forever. Somatostatin, the quieting signal from the hypothalamus, still reasserts itself. The pulse still ends. But while the pulse is running, while the somatotrophs have fired and Greg is moving through the blood, the deep architecture of sleep gets a small, steady reinforcement. This is why a fragmented night feels different from a short one. If the body sleeps for 6 hours without interruption, it can still complete at least one full cycle of the slow wave phase. Greg gets his window, the pulse fires, and the loop has a chance to run. But if those same 6 hours are broken, a noise, a light, a surface that keeps the sleeper in shallow water, the slow wave phase never fully arrives, or it arrives briefly and shatters before it can consolidate. Greg waits. The pulse hesitates, and the reinforcement of the architecture, the quiet deepening that growth hormone provides, never has time to take hold. Nothing catastrophic. The body is not fragile. But the repair work is less complete. The building crew arrived, but the site was never fully quiet. Liver Lisa, for her part, has a position on this. She would not use the word fragmented. She would say, the order came in late, so the parts shipped late. She began producing IGF-1 when Greg's signal reached her. When the signal was smaller or delayed, the IGF-1 order was smaller too. She does not complain about this. She simply notes it in the log and moves on to the next of her 500 other responsibilities. Autophagy Alex, running his clearing operation in the same quiet window, notices the difference as well. A fragmented night gives him less uninterrupted fasting time, less depth of sleep, less of the low insulin quiet he needs to run the full clearing cycle. He gets some work done. He always gets some work done. But the rubble does not get cleared as completely. And Greg, arriving to build on a site that Alex has only half cleared, has less room to work with. This is the part nobody explains clearly. The quality of deep sleep matters not just because rest feels better, but because the repair sequence is an architecture, not a single action. One worker reinforces the conditions for the next. The sleep deepens the pulse deepens the sleep. The clearing makes room for the building makes use of the clearing. Each layer depends on the layer before it. Tom is straightforward about this, in the way he is straightforward about most things. Same hours, same site. He and Greg do not need to negotiate about it. The deep sleep window is where anabolic repair, the building of stronger tissue from the materials at hand, becomes possible. That window is not a preference. It is the operating condition. Shorten it or break it, and both of them work with what remains. They adapt, but the full project takes the full window. So when someone asks why sleep matters for physical recovery, this is the complete answer. Not just that the body is resting, not just that energy is being conserved, but that a specific time-locked sequence is running, and the sequence itself depends on the depth and continuity of slow-wave sleep in a way that goes both directions.
The sequence reinforces the sleep. One supports the other returns the favor. Greg knows this. He has always worked this way. Not because anyone planned it, but because the body arrived at this arrangement across a very long time through a kind of iterative patience that no engineer has ever matched. It did not make the night more elegant. It made it whole. The night is deep now. Deep and still and very comfortable. There is nothing to do here, nothing to solve. You just need to be present in this quiet, in this dark. Here is something the body does quietly, without announcement. Greg does not arrive each night with the same instructions. He arrives with the same intent: to repair, to rebuild, to draw fuel from storage. But the scale of his work shifts depending on what the day asked of the body. A desk day and a hard training day do not get the same shift. This is not a mystery, it is calibration. The body keeps a kind of ledger. Muscle tissue that worked hard through the day carries small structural disturbances, tiny tears in the protein fibers, the ordinary consequence of contraction and load. It is how muscle adapts over time. Those disturbances are not damage in the alarming sense. They are the notation the body uses to mark which structures need tending. Greg reads that notation. The mechanism works something like this. When muscle is stressed through the day, the local chemistry around those fibers changes. Certain signaling molecules rise. The cellular environment shifts in ways the body can read hours later, even after the work has stopped. That signal does not disappear when you sit down. It persists quietly into the early hours of sleep. And when Greg's pulse arrives, released by the somatotrophs in the front of the pituitary, drawn out by the quiet that deep, slow-wave sleep provides, the response he triggers is shaped, in part, by what those tissues are asking for. More repair work asked for. More signals sent. It is a conversation, not a monologue. The body makes a request in the language of chemistry. Greg answers in the language of protein synthesis and IGF-1 and the slow, careful laying down of new structure. Liver Lisa, for her part, does not find this philosophically interesting. She receives Greg's signal. She produces IGF-1. The amount she makes reflects the strength of Greg's signal, and Greg's signal reflects the scale of the need. She simply does her part of the math and moves on. She has other things on the list. What is worth pausing on is the precision of it. The body does not rebuild everything equally on every night. It allocates. Tissues with more to repair receive more attention. Structures that are fine are left alone, or nearly so. It does not send repair crews to walls that are already standing straight. Tom, working the same deep sleep window, operates along similar lines. His anabolic signal, the one that reinforces muscle protein and maintains bone density, is also calibrated to need. A body that asked more of its muscles during waking hours tends to run a more active repair shift through the slow wave hours. Tom does not push back against this. He was built for exactly this kind of proportional work. Same hours, every night, but not the same scale. Alex, the cellular clearing worker, the one who collects damaged proteins and worn organelle components and breaks them down into parts that can be reused, also scales to demand. A cell that worked hard carries more debris than a cell that rested. Alex does not treat all cells as identical stops on his route. He goes where the clearing needs doing. Then, Greg builds on the cleared ground. Clear first, then build, and the amount of clearing sets the scale for the building. There's a practical consequence that follows quietly from all of this. Sleep that arrives after a day of physical demand is not simply the same sleep arriving under different circumstances. Some research suggests the slow wave portion of sleep, the delta wave depth that opens Greg's window and Tom's window and Alex's operating hours, can run longer or can be more consolidated after physical exertion. The body, it seems, presses toward the kind of sleep it needs most when its need for repair is highest. Greg knows this. The depth of sleep and the scale of the night's repair work are not two independent variables sitting side by side. They adjust to each other. They are in correspondence. The body that asked more through the day leans harder toward the depth of sleep that makes repair possible. And in that depth, the signals run stronger. None of this means that pushing the body harder automatically produces better sleep. The relationship is not a simple lever. Exhaustion and recovery are different things. But the broad principle holds. The sleep that follows genuine physical demand tends to carry more of the slow wave architecture that Greg and Tom and Alex all depend on. The body schedules accordingly. This is why rest is not the same as recovery. Rest is the absence of effort. Recovery is the presence of something else entirely, a set of active, calibrated, finely tuned processes that the body runs only when the right conditions exist. Stillness is the door, sleep is the room. And the work happens inside, quietly, in the dark. The body does not simply stop when it lies down. It reads the day. It takes stock. It decides, in whatever wordless chemical sense the word applies, what the night is for. And then the repair crew clocks in. It did not make the work simpler, it made it responsive. Notice how easy the breath has become. Coming and going. Coming and going. You are not managing it. It knows the way on its own. The big pulse has come and gone. That first wave of growth hormone, the one that rides in on the back of deep, slow wave sleep, is the one most people have never heard of. And it is the most important wave Greg sends. But it is not the only one. Through the rest of the night, smaller pulses follow, not as tall, not as wide, more like a series of quiet aftershocks than a second earthquake. The body does not rest between them the way a machine idles between cycles. It is more that Greg steps back, checks the work, and then sends another smaller authorization through. adjusting the signal to whatever still needs attending. Here is something worth pausing on. Growth hormone does not stay in the blood for long. Its half-life, the time it takes for the circulating level to fall by half, is somewhere around 20 minutes, maybe a little less. By human standards, that is brief. By the standards of the overnight repair shift, it is just enough. This is not a flaw in the design, it is the design. A signal that clears quickly can be reissued. It can be adjusted. The body can send a new version of it based on new information. How much repair is still outstanding? How much fuel is available? What the feedback from IGF-1 is saying about the state of things downstream. A signal that stayed high all night would be a dial stuck at one setting. A signal that clears and repulses is something else entirely. It is a conversation. Liver Lisa understands this better than most. Her job in the IGF-1 loop is partly to answer Greg's signal and partly to summarize the situation back to the hypothalamus, the region of the brain that manages the release and suppression of growth hormone from above. She does not announce this work. She simply does it steadily, in between everything else she is managing through the small hours. When asked what it is like to hold this many processes simultaneously, Lisa tends to give a short answer. She says something like, "The inbox does not stop arriving just because the lights are out." So you work the inbox. The secondary pulses Greg sends are smaller partly because the somatostatin signal, the brain's quieting instruction that holds growth hormone back, has not fully retreated again the way it did at the edge of that first deep sleep phase. Somatostatin, meaning the chemical that tells the somatotroph cells to hold rather than release, sits at a slightly higher baseline through the lighter sleep stages that fill the middle of the night. Greg can still pulse through it. The secondary waves still carry real signal, but they do not carry the same authority as the first. This is why the early sleep is worth protecting. Not because nothing happens later. Plenty happens later. But the architecture of the night front-loads the largest repair signal. And that architecture depends on reaching slow-wave sleep relatively soon after you fall asleep, before the lighter cycles begin to dominate the later hours. Autophagy Alex, running his clearing operation on a similar schedule, has noticed the same thing over a long career. The deep clearing, the thoroughgoing recycling of older proteins and worn organelles, happens most efficiently in that same early window. The later passes of the night are refinements, important refinements, but refinements nonetheless. He and Greg do not discuss this often. They are both busy, but there is a shared understanding. The quality of the first window sets the tone for everything that follows it. Testosterone Tom holds a similar view, stated with characteristic brevity. Same hours, he will say, and he means it. Not same shift, not same schedule, same hours. The specificity is the point. There is something steadying about how the secondary pulses work, once you understand them. The night is not a single large event bracketed by wakefulness. It is layered. The first, deep phase is the foundation pour, the concrete going in while conditions are optimal. The secondary pulses through the middle and later sleep cycles are the finish work. Quieter, incremental, attending to what the foundation left undone. A body does not need to be aware of this to benefit from it. The system runs without supervision. Greg does not need an audience. He does not need confirmation that the work was received. The secondary pulses go out because the pituitary fires them, because the hypothalamus permits them, because the balance between releasing signal and holding signal tips just enough in the right direction each time. Lisa receives each one and adjusts her IGF-1 output accordingly. The downstream tissues, muscle, bone, connective tissue, continue to process the repair instructions at the pace the signal allows. Nothing spectacular. The breath slows. The limbs are heavy against the mattress. Somewhere in the background of all this activity, the body is simply resting in the oldest sense of the word. Not absent, not suspended, but attending to itself in the quiet way that only the dark hours allow. Greg knows this dark. He has been working it long enough to understand that the secondary pulses matter not because they rival the first, but because they extend it. The night is one long authorization, issued in parts, each part smaller than the one before and no less necessary for being small. It did not make the work louder. It made it continuous. Let your shoulders drop a little further. Let the back of your neck soften. The pillow is doing the work now, not you. There is a quiet assumption most people carry about recovery. It goes something like this. The body sleeps and the body heals, and those two things happen at the same rate across all of its parts, all at once. A kind of uniform restoration, like a room being repainted from every wall simultaneously. That is not quite how it works. Greg does not rebuild everything at the same moment. He works in a sequence. And the sequence has its own logic, one that is worth understanding, because once you see it, the whole night makes a different kind of sense. Here is the thing. Growth hormone's repair signal does not travel through the body as a single instruction. It moves as a priority list. The tissues and cells that are most actively responding to IGF-1, the second messenger that liver Lisa produces in answer to Greg's signal, are the ones that are most open to receiving it. And a cell's receptiveness depends on how much it has been asked to do. Muscle fibers that were asked nothing today receive a quieter signal. Muscle fibers that were asked a great deal, that sustained actual microscopic disruption during the day's work, are sitting with their receptors wide open. They have prepared the molecular equivalent of an intake form. They are ready to be seen. This is the mechanism. When a muscle fiber experiences stress, the small, ordinary structural strain of use, it responds by upregulating what are called growth factor receptors. Receptors are proteins that sit on the surface of a cell, waiting for a signal to arrive and bind to them, the way a lock waits for a key. More receptors means more surface area for the signal to land on. More signal landing means more repair authorized. More repair authorized means more of the amino acids Greg directed into circulation actually get taken up and used. The body is not distributing its repair budget equally. It is distributing it proportionally. The more a tissue was used, the better it is positioned to receive the night's reconstruction work. Greg knows this, and the same principle extends further than muscle. Bone tissue has its own version of this. Connective tissue, the tendons and ligaments that hold the moving parts in alignment, responds to mechanical loading by upregulating receptors for the signals that prompt collagen synthesis, the process by which the body builds and repairs the tough, fibrous protein that gives those structures their tensile strength. A day that asked the body to move, carry, and absorb force is a day that opened those receptor sites. The night that follows finds them ready. This is not the body being clever. It is the body being efficient. Resources go where the demand is loudest. The cellular machinery that processes Greg's signal is more available in the tissues that ask for it. Autophagy. Alex plays a role here, too. His clearing work, collecting the day's damaged proteins and broken organelles, dismantling them and returning the usable components to general circulation, does not happen uniformly across the body either. Alex's cleanup operation concentrates in the cells that accumulated the most cellular debris, the ones most in need of clearing before any new structure can be built. And when Alex has finished clearing a site, Greg's IGF-1 signal finds a cleaner substrate to work with. The receptor sites are unobstructed. The raw material is already present. Clear first, then build. It is less a motto than a literal sequence. Testosterone Tom follows the same distribution logic. His anabolic signal, the one that reinforces protein synthesis in muscle and bone, is also preferentially received by tissues that have been mechanically loaded. The cells are more responsive. The night's work lands where the day's work asked it to land. Liver Lisa, for her part, does not make a fixed amount of IGF-1 and distribute it evenly. Her output adjusts to Greg's signal across the night, and Greg's signal is itself calibrated to the body's condition. The whole system is reading the same ledger, the same record of what was used, what was stressed, what was opened and ready. This is the part that tends to go unacknowledged in the simple story of sleep and recovery. Sleep does not add a fixed quantity of repair to whatever happened during the day. It adds a shaped quantity, one that follows the contours of the day's actual demands. A restful day and a demanding day both ask for sleep, but the night's internal work looks different in each case. Not louder or quieter exactly, more like a different distribution. The same crew, the same window, the same biological tools, but the floor plan of the job changes with the building. Somewhere in the brainstem, the slow waves continue to roll. Greg's pulses have moved into their quieter secondary rhythm, smaller and more incremental than the opening surge of the early night. But the signal is still present. Liver Lisa is still producing IGF-1 in answer to it. Alex's clearing work is winding down, the debris collected, The sights open. Tom's anabolic signal is settling into its final hours. The repair is not being applied like paint. It is being applied like attention. Directed, allocated, shaped by everything the body carried through the day. The night does not simply restore, it responds. This is the easiest part of the whole day. Nothing to carry, nothing to finish, only rest and the quiet dark. The night does not simply restore, it responds. And now the night grows very quiet. Not the quiet of nothing happening. The quiet of everything that needs to happen happening slowly, in the right order, in the dark. Greg is still at work. He has been at work since the first deep sleep opened the door. He is not rushing. He has never rushed. That is not how this goes. The body is warm. The breath is easy. The muscles have let go of the day. And somewhere very deep, in a gland no bigger than a pea at the base of the brain, a quiet signal still moves. Not a flood, just enough. That is how Greg has always worked. Enough. Precisely enough. Calibrated to what the day asked for, and nothing more. The pituitary sent the pulse. Liver Lisa received the signal. She made the second messenger, the one called IGF-1, and sent it on. And the cells that needed it most received it first. The ones that worked the hardest through the day, the ones that had been waiting. That is the design. Not random, not uniform, precise. Somewhere in the body, protein is being laid down, quietly, strand by strand, the way a wall is rebuilt, one course of brick at a time. No drama, just a slow return of structure. And the fuel for all of it comes from stored fat, released softly from its reserves. The brain is being spared. The repair work takes what it needs from another shelf entirely. This is the elegance of it. The body keeps its priorities sorted, even here, even in the dark, even without any instruction from you. You do not have to manage this. It is already being managed. Tom is still on his shift. Steady, unhurried, his work and Greg's work do not compete. They belong to the same window, the same deep stillness, the same quiet architecture of slow wave sleep. And Alex has been clearing for hours now. The cellular debris of a long day, gathered and broken down, reclaimed, returned to something useful. Clear first, then build. That is the order. It has always been the order. And Lisa is doing what Lisa does. She has 500 jobs on any given night. This was always one of them. She does not find it remarkable. She simply does it. Greg knows this dark. He has worked this hour many thousands of times. Through every season of a life. Through the loud years and the quiet ones. Through the years of growth and the years of maintenance. Always the same shift. Always the same door. The one that deep sleep opens. The door is open now. Let the shoulders settle a little further into the bed. Let the jaw unclench if it has been holding on. The body knows what to do here. It has always known. The breath moves in. The breath moves out. Somewhere near the center of the brain, delta waves are rolling slowly. Long and slow like the tide coming in. Like something that has been moving this way for a very long time. That is slow wave sleep. That is the signal. That is the door. And Greg is already through it. He has been through it since the beginning of the night, since the somatostatin eased back and the somatotrophs fired, and the pulse went out into the blood like a quiet instruction. Like a shift supervisor writing the night's orders on a whiteboard in a room where everyone already knows their job. Every cell that had a receptor waiting received the message. Every tissue that had upregulated its listening got heard. The day shaped the repair list. The night is filling it in. Not a flood, just enough. The warmth in the body is even now. The weight of the limbs is real and settled. The mind, if it is still somewhere nearby, is drifting. That is exactly right. That is where it should be. Nothing is required. Nothing needs to be remembered. The crew is here. Greg has the shift. Lisa has the order. Tom has the hours. Alex has the clearing floor. And the night is doing what the night has always done. Slowly, quietly, in the right order. In the dark. The room is dark, and the dark is kind. Sleep is not something you reach for. It comes and finds you. In the right order, in the dark. And so the body keeps its own kind of faith. Not loudly, not with any fanfare at all. Just the slow, steady business of repair. Somewhere at the base of the brain, a small gland the size of a pea holds its post. The pituitary, patient as ever. It has been doing this for as long as the body has known how to sleep. And Greg is still there, quiet now, moving through the last of his shift, the way a good worker moves through the end of a long night, without rushing, without slowing, just steady, just present. The first pulse came early. That was the largest one, the most important one, the one the whole schedule was built around. That window at the start of deep sleep, when the brain's quieting signal eased back and the somatotrophs, the cells that make Greg, were finally free to fire. That moment has passed now. The body is further into the night. But the work is still going. Smaller signals, lighter pulses, each one a continuation of what the first one started. Liver Lisa is still at her station. She has been there all night, as she always is, managing more things at once than any reasonable job description should contain. But she does not complain. That is not her way. She received Greg's signal hours ago. She answered it then. She is still answering it now, keeping IGF-1 moving through the body, keeping the repair authorization current, making sure the message reaches every site that needs it. We have order here, she would say, if she were the sort to say it aloud. And she is right. And Tom is somewhere in the same darkness, doing what he has always done. The same hours, every night. The anabolic work. The quiet reinforcement of muscle and bone that happens only when the sleep is deep enough. Only when the window is open. He and Greg have never needed to discuss the arrangement. They simply share the shift. They always have. And in the smallest spaces, in the interior of cells too tiny to name, Alex is still running his operation, collecting what is worn, reclaiming what can be reused, leaving the building clear for what comes next. He clears first, then Greg builds. That has always been the sequence. Clear first, then build. Simple as that. The breath in the room is slow now. The body is heavy in the good way. The way it gets when something has been working on its behalf for a long time, quietly, without asking permission or attention. The muscles are being tended to, not dramatically, not all at once, just the places that were used the most, the tissues that put in the longest day. Greg's signal goes where the need is. It has always worked that way. The stored fat is still lending itself to the effort. Slowly, steadily, broken down into fuel, so the repair work does not have to borrow from anywhere else. The brain keeps its glucose. The body keeps its building materials. Everyone has what they need. This is what sleep is for. Not just the absence of waking, not just the closing of eyes. This, the layered, unhurried work of a body that knows what to do when the room goes quiet. Greg knows this.
He has known it every night of his working life. The pulse, the signal, the liver's answer, the slow movement of repair through tissue and bone, and the fine architecture of cells. He did not invent the schedule. He simply keeps it. And the schedule keeps him. The pituitary is quiet now. The hypothalamus has done its signaling. The feedback has come back around. IGF-1 moving through the blood, closing the loop, telling the brain that the work is underway, that the signal was received, that the night is doing what nights are meant to do. Let the shoulders be heavy. Let the breath be slow. The repair is already in motion. It does not need attention. It does not need direction. It only needs the dark. And the dark is here. All of it. Quiet and wide and unbroken. The body at rest, the crew at work, the night doing what it has always known how to do. In the right order, in the dark. Let the eyes stay closed. Let the face go soft. There is nothing left to look at and nothing left to decide. In the right order, in the dark, and so the night finishes what it started, not with a signal or a sound, not with any announcement at all. The work simply reaches the place it was always headed, a body lying still, breathing slow, repaired in ways it will not consciously notice until morning. Greg makes no ceremony of it. He never does. The somatotrophs in the pituitary have fired their pulses. The signal went out. Liver Lisa received it, logged it, and produced what was needed. IGF-1, the second messenger, the quiet authorization that travels to every tissue with work to do. She has already moved on to the next item on her list. She has 499 others. Testosterone Tom finished his renovation hours ago. He does not linger. The structural work is done. The muscle fibers, the bone tissue, the quiet reinforcement of things the day had asked a great deal from. Tom is a craftsman who prefers to let the work speak for itself. It will in the morning. It usually does. Autophagy Alex has been running his clearing operation since the last delivery driver clocked out. The rubble is gone. The damaged proteins, the worn cellular machinery, the debris that accumulated through a long waking day, cleared, broken down, reclaimed. What Greg builds, he builds on a clean site. That has always been the arrangement. All four of them worked the same quiet window. None of them negotiated their hours. Deep sleep was the condition, and deep sleep arrived, and the work followed as naturally as water finding level ground. Greg knows this. The body does not need to be told any of this. It has always known. Every tissue that sent up its small signal of demand at the end of the day. The muscle that worked hard, the joint that carried weight, the skin that repaired 1,000 microscopic things. Every one of them received an answer.
The answer was proportional. The answer was unhurried. The answer was the night itself. And now the night is nearly done. The breath is easy. The limbs are heavy in the good way. The way that means nothing needs attending to, nothing needs moving, nothing needs deciding. Let the shoulders stay where they are. Let the hands rest. The body is doing what it has always done in the hours when you are not watching. While you sleep, Growth Hormone Greg is already at work. The somatotroph cells in the front of the pituitary release him impulses, the largest arriving in that first deep stretch of slow-wave sleep. And from that signal, Liver Lisa builds IGF-1, the repair messenger that carries Greg's instructions to muscle, bone, and connective tissue, directing amino acids into building, tilting the body's fuel towards stored fat, and quietly authorizing the reconstruction of everything the day asked of you. You don't have to do anything. Your body knows exactly what to do. It's been doing this work for your entire life, every single night. So let it. Trust it. And as you drift deeper now, Growth Hormone Greg will be here when you wake up. Quieter, calmer, better,